Hi Hermits, welcome back to my channel. Dara here. Today we are going to be talking about the 5 books that I really want to try and get to before the end of this year. So when I had the idea for this video, I thought I could go in one of two directions. Either I could create like this massive TBR for myself that was sort of like a pick and choose situation, so I wouldn't commit to reading all of them, I would just pick from that pile. Or I could pick a really small handful that I'm really feeling like I want to get to at some point over the next 2 months. And I ended up going for the latter, so good news for you, it's not going to be a super long video. So I've narrowed it down to 5 books that I'm really feeling for the final 2 months of the year. And you will notice that these are very like spooky season type books, but I think I mentioned this in my October reading wrap up. For me, spooky season is from the middle of September to the middle of February. That is spooky season. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be reading. Let's dive straight in no particular order. So the first book that I really want to get to over the next couple of months is The Crimson Petal and the White by Michelle Faber. And this is a really long book. Like I've optimistically tabbed it so I can, section it out and chip away at it. I'm not sure if I will pay any attention to those tabs or not, but like I said, this is a long book, so it's 833 pages, but with really like teeny tiny text. And it is set in Victorian England. It is about a woman named Sugar who is a sex worker, essentially, and she is like dragging herself up through the echelons of society in Victorian London. And I know that it is very dark, it's very gritty, it's also very vivid. I've heard that the characters in particular are like very, very dimensional, which is something that I'm always looking for in a book. I'm very much a character lover. And I've had this one on my radar for such a long time, to the extent that I actually own the audiobook, the Kindle book, and the physical book. So I have no excuses. And now is the time. I do feel like autumn and winter is my prime historical fiction time, specifically like Victorian historical fiction. I don't know, there's just something about it that makes me think like November, December. Maybe because it's always like dark and gloomy and rainy, and so are those seasons. I don't know. But I'm really looking forward to getting to that one. The next book that I really want to read before the end of the year is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. So this is on my list of 22 books to read in 2022. If you do want to know what else was on that list, then definitely check the link in the description box. I'll pop it there for you. You probably don't need me to tell you what this is about. This is like the foundational dark academia text, and it's essentially a murder mystery between a pretentious group of college friends. This is another long one. It is 660 pages, at least this copy is. And yeah, I have a feeling it'll take me a little bit of time to get through just because of what I've heard about the style of writing. So I believe it is quite like flowery and lyrical and involved, and so probably not the quickest read, which I'm okay with. I'm absolutely okay with. Like the darker season for me is about those like longer, slower books anyway, so it's the perfect time to pick this up. The next book that I want to read before the end of the year is one I've actually DNF'd in the past. So that is Once Upon a River by Diane Satterfield. Now, Diane Satterfield wrote The 13th Tale, which for me was a 5-star read. I read it a few years ago now, and it has stuck in my mind. Like, it was a memorable book. I actually want to get myself a physical copy because I got it from the library back then. So I want to get myself a physical copy and read it. And as soon as I saw this, I picked it up from the library and I was like, I'm going to love it. Yes, it's by her. I'm going to love it. And I read maybe like 80 or 90 pages and I just put it down and never picked it up again. And I kept renewing it and I kept not wanting to pick it up. So I just took it back to the library. But then Tom ended up picking me up this copy during the my boyfriend goes book shopping for me video that I did, which I will also link in the description. And so I kind of feel like I need to give it a go now, but I have also been more in the mood for it. So this is another one set in Victorian England, I believe. Yeah, I do think it's Victorian times. So we open our story in like an oldie worldy pub, and you know, people are drinking, people are having their bawdy night out, whatever, and this girl washes up on the riverbank, and this guy, like, you know, pulls her out and takes her up to the pub, and she is dead, and then she's not. So this girl comes back to life, and it's really about this cast of characters dealing with this situation, which is clearly very abnormal. And so it's giving me like historical fiction, it's giving me magical realism, it's giving me dark and gloomy, it's giving me gothic atmosphere, all of the perfect components for a spooky end of the year. And I already know that I love Diane Setterfield's writing. I know that I love her ability to create character. I know I love her ability to put twists all over the place. So I feel like the potential is here. And yeah, recently I've just been feeling more and more inclined to pick it up, which is interesting because I went for such a long time being so uninterested, but recently it's just been winking at me from my bookshelf. So this is one that I want to get to before the end of the year. The next book that I want to prioritise over the next couple of months is The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. And this is a Dracula retelling, but with a twist. So I believe that this is about a woman who is going through her late father's effects, and she like finds a manuscript, or she finds a letter or something like that, and she starts unpicking this mystery, which leads her to Dracula, who has developed a taste for librarians, I believe. I may have that synopsis wrong. That is what I've heard. But I just think it's giving everything that I'm craving right now. I want dark, I want gothic, I want a Dracula retelling after reading and loving A Dowry of Blood. I want something that I can just be immersed in, but it is another long one. How long is this one? 704 pages. How long is Once Upon a River? Have I just picked all books that are ridiculously long? Oh, this one's 528, so this one's the shortest of the bunch so far, and it's still not that short. Anyway, the last book that I want to read sooner rather than later is The Witching Hour by Anne Rice, and this is actually a reread for me, and I don't have a copy of this one physically. I have an audiobook and a Kindle book, so I'll be reading the Kindle book this time, and it is one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite books. I think it is a travesty that more people don't talk about this book, particularly when they're doing recommendations for spooky season, because it is just impeccable. I mean, it is dark, like it goes to some depths, but isn't that what we look for during this time of year? And I don't know. I think it's brilliant. It's the first in a trilogy that I've actually never completed, but I did love that first book so much, and a trilogy that I want to complete because I found out recently that they have dramatized it and the TV show comes out in January. So I want to read these 3 books before that show comes out, because honestly, like, there are so many twists and turns in the first book alone that I do not want to watch the show before I finish the books. Like, that I'm certain about. It is how would I even describe it? It's so epic. It's essentially like the story of a dynasty of witches. So we see all of the different generations of this family of witches, the Mayfair witches, and everything that they've gone through throughout the centuries. And it is dark. There's like this very like dark spirit attached to the family that we are learning more about. Like, there are some questionable choices made by absolutely everybody. It's just so stunning. Like, if ever a book delivered on the vibes promised, The Witching Hour is the one. Like, it is so atmospheric. It is so atmospheric. And just every single thing about it is just described to such a perfect amount of detail that it really does create this whole energy of spookiness and unease, and I just love it. It's like it's set in New Orleans, so you know you've got all of like that air of magic about it, but we also see a history in Scotland, in France, in the Caribbean, and so we get like little flavors of witches from a more like global perspective, and it's just delicious. It's dark, it's dangerous, it's so fun, and I could not rave about this book more. I really couldn't. I just love it. I love it, and I really hope that it stands up upon a reread. The first time I read it was 2019. No, it wasn't 2019, it was 2017. Oh my god, 5 years ago. That's wild. So I hope that I still love it as much upon a reread. I have a feeling I will, because it really was a stunning creation. It's a masterpiece. Everyone always talks about her vampire series, but for me, I mean, they're good, but for me, like, this one was god tier. Absolutely loved it. So really looking forward to giving that a reread. So there you have it. Those are the 5 books that I really want to keep to the top of my priority list for the last 2 months of the year. And I know like there are goals that I set for myself that these books will not necessarily help me accomplish. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Like, I am not in the business of reading for achievement's sake. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a hobby. So if I don't, you know, smash all of the intentions that I set in January, like, who's gonna die? Nobody. Like, it's fine. So my real priority is just to make sure that I'm enjoying my reading months every single month, and I think this mini TBR will help me do just that. And I say mini like these aren't all ridiculously long books. How long is The Witching Hour? Let's see. Oh my god, like, I listened to the audiobook when I read it for the first time, so I didn't realise it was this long, but it's 1,207 pages. Yeah. Okay, I should rename this video 5 unbearably long books that I'm going to read this year. I'm going to have a great time, I know it. Anyway, I'm going to head off, but before I do, please let me know in the comments, have you read any of these 5 books that I've mentioned today? And if you have, where do you recommend I start? Let me know. Cast your vote. Cast your vote. I'm open to your feedback. Okay, I'm going to love you and leave you, so please go have a fabulous rest of your day, and I will see you in my next upload very soon.